My toxic coworker stole my promotion and dream project, so I exposed his lies in front of the director and the whole team. I'm 27, just your average guy working a regular desk job in Silicon Valley. If you've ever walked through one of those endless rows of cubicles, you've probably seen someone like me clocking in for the typical 9-to-5 grind, taking care of chores at home, and heading back to my cozy apartment after a decent day's work. Nothing too flashy, just a routine I've grown used to. But I do have this creative side that keeps things interesting. I'm really into music, I play guitar and sometimes perform at local nightclubs just for the thrill of it. On top of that, I dabble in sculpture. I actually keep a few of my pieces right at my desk. While most of my coworkers go for the standard corporate setup, my workstation doubles as a mini art gallery. The sculptures I've carved are pretty detailed, and they tend to grab the attention of folks walking by. I love when people ask about them, it gives me a chance to tell the story behind each piece. That's not all, though. I've also got a thing for storytelling, and lunch breaks at the office are usually when I get to bring that out. I enjoy spinning tales, some funny, some thoughtful, just enough to get a few laughs or nods. Anyway, that's a little about me. But the reason I'm here, unloading all this, has a name, Derek. He's 31 and the kind of guy who's obsessed with appearances. Derek works really hard to look like he's running in elite circles even though reality says otherwise. He drives this old, battered car, dresses in fake designer clothes, and struts around like he's some kind of tech mogul. His office walls are covered with plaques and certificates, but if you look closely, they're just meaningless participation awards from random seminars no one's ever heard of. And Derek doesn't just sit quietly in meetings, he hijacks them. He dominates every discussion with long-winded, ego-fueled speeches that leave the rest of us mentally checking out halfway through. It's like trying to navigate a maze, except the only thing you find at the end is more Derek. Now, you might be wondering why I'm going on about myself and this guy. But trust me, knowing the kind of people we are will help make sense of what happened next. Up until recently, I managed to keep a polite distance from Derek and his underhanded office politics. He was annoying, sure, but I stayed out of his way. That all changed during promotion season. This promotion wasn't just a job title for me, it was something I'd poured my heart into. I'd stayed late, gone above and beyond, and honestly felt like I'd earned it. But for Derek? It was just another rung on the ladder to his imaginary empire. To him, this wasn't about skill or contribution, it was his so-called destiny. And he was ready to play whatever game it took to win. Things took a sharp turn when the CEO called Derek up during a meeting and named him the new senior manager of innovation. My heart sank. This guy had sweet-talked his way up the ladder, manipulating the higher-ups and putting on just the right performance to land the role. Meanwhile, I stood there frozen, watching the moment I'd worked so hard for vanish right in front of me. Derek, of course, soaked it all in like he was accepting an Oscar. With that smug smile plastered on his face, he grabbed the mic and launched into the most self-congratulatory speech I'd ever heard. You could practically hear the collective eye roll from the room. I stayed in the back, quiet, thinking about all the long nights and early mornings I'd given to this place. It felt like my dreams had just crumbled, and now I had no choice but to report to Derek, the very guy who treated the job like a game of power plays. What's worse is now I'm stuck listening to his daily gossip and scheming while trying to explain my project ideas to him. I still hold on to the slim hope that maybe, just maybe, this new role will make him take his work seriously for once. In the middle of all this chaos, there's one person who helps me keep it together, Sarah. She's 26, works with me, and has always been a steady presence at the office. She came over after the announcement, her eyes full of understanding, and offered the kind of support I didn't even know I needed. She helped me find a little hope again. And no, before you ask, we're not dating. She's just someone I feel comfortable with, someone who listens. Still, I try not to overshare. We're coworkers after all, and lines can blur fast in a place like this. That's part of why I'm here, typing this all out. It's a space where I can speak freely, no judgment, no consequences. I get it, office politics are real, and I know I'm not the only one who's ever been in this spot. But man, it stings. You work your tail off all year, and then someone steps on your back just to climb a little higher. I just hope my previous disagreement with Derek over his behavior doesn't come back to bite me. And now, to top it all off, he's throwing some over-the-top celebration at a high-end restaurant like it's some royal coronation. Guess we'll see how that goes. I'll post an update if anything major happens. And hey, if anyone's got advice on how to handle a situation like this, I'm all ears. Update 1. Like I said earlier, Derek's promotion shook things up in our department, and not in a good way. The moment he got the title, he wasted no time flaunting it. First thing he did was plan this massive party to celebrate the team, though we all knew it was more about boosting his ego. When he announced it, everyone clapped, but let's be real, it was all for show. Most folks were just trying to stay on his good side. Me? I couldn't even fake a smile. It felt like a punch to the gut watching someone undeserving get praised like a hero. Sarah looked about as thrilled as I did. We exchanged a glance, a silent what the hell kind of look, while the rest of the team played along, clapping like trained seals. I figured the party would be the end of it. I'd show up, fake a congratulations, grab some food, and dip out early. But of course, Derek had other plans. The day after the party, an email landed in our inboxes. In it, Derek went on about how the promotion wasn't just his, it was a team victory. He said the party was a celebration of our shared success, and then he added that we'd all be splitting the cost of it. You read that right. The guy throws himself a fancy party, then tells us to chip in for the bill. Classic Derek. Update 1, continued. Derek called it a gesture of team unity, claiming we should all chip in for the party as a sign of solidarity. Honestly, it was complete nonsense. I figured everyone would see through it and we could push back together, maybe even take it up with management. But to my surprise, most of the team had already agreed to pay their share. I couldn't believe it. Why should we foot the bill for a party we didn't ask for? This was Derek's idea from the start, a victory parade for himself. If he was so eager to share the spotlight, maybe he should have shared his raise instead of digging into our pockets under the pretense of team spirit. When I vented to Sarah, she told me Derek had been feeding the team some over-the-top promises, talking about new initiatives and grand plans that would supposedly benefit us all. It was all hot air, of course. We all knew deep down that even with his new title, Derek didn't actually have the authority to implement half the stuff he was talking about. Still, everyone felt pressured to play along, including me. I ended up contributing to that so-called celebration even though every part of me hated it. I don't know how I'm going to survive working under Derek, but one thing's clear, I have to find a way to collaborate with him, even if just the thought of it turns my stomach. If I want to keep my job, and stay in this country and company, I've got no choice. Update 2. Things have only gotten worse since then. I used to think I'd just have to put up with Derek during work hours, 9 to 5, nothing more. But apparently, he's got a different idea of boundaries. In Derek's world, personal life doesn't exist. Before I knew it, I was drowning in late-night assignments, barely able to keep my head above water. Derek had unofficially decided that I was his go-to guy for all the extra work and he wasn't taking no for an answer. The hours I used to spend playing guitar or working on my sculptures slowly disappeared. Instead of jam sessions in clay, I found myself buried in spreadsheets and back-to-back video calls. It was exhausting. He was clearly abusing his position to take advantage of my work ethic and my commitment to this company. I started to feel like I was losing myself. My personal life had become a shadow of what it used to be. I missed my hobbies, I missed my friends, I missed feeling like a person again. Then, one evening after another brutal day, I got a call from my best friend. He and a few of the guys were meeting at a local bar for a jam session, the kind we used to do all the time before Derek's promotion swallowed my life. I wanted to go so badly. Derek happened to be working from home that day, and Sarah, seeing how worn down I was, offered to help finish up some of my pending tasks so I could take a break. I can't even put into words how much I needed that night. Reuniting with my friends and playing music again, it felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. For a little while, I forgot about the stress and the spreadsheets and even Derek. But when I got home, guilt started to creep in. I kept thinking about how Sarah had stayed behind to pick up the slack. She could have gone home too, but she chose to help me out. And I couldn't shake the feeling that Derek would find some way to twist this against us. Sure enough, the next morning I headed to work early, planning to talk things over with Sarah. Maybe we'd go over the report together and make sure everything was squared away. But Derek had already beaten us there. The second I walked in, he was on me raging about the report, accusing me of shirking my responsibilities and assigning tasks without his approval. Sarah was off in the corner, crying, apologizing. She'd missed a small detail, something minor, but it was enough for Derek to blow it all out of proportion. I tried to reason with him, to explain that we just wanted to review the file one more time. But he didn't want to hear it. According to him, the real issue was me leaving the office too early, aka right on time, and not staying late enough to meet his inflated expectations. That's when it really hit me. Derek didn't care about the team. He didn't care about fairness or results. He just wanted to look good, no matter who he had to throw under the bus to get there. And honestly, I started to think maybe I'd have to just give up my personal life altogether if I wanted to survive in this place. A few folks suggested I switch jobs, and I get it. That would be the easy solution. But I've been with this company for 5 years. I've poured too much into it to let a guy like Derek push me out. Leaving now would feel like running away. Like giving up. And I'm just not ready to hand Derek that win. Call it pride, call it ego, but I want to prove that I can outlast him. That I can stay true to myself without folding under pressure. Update 3. It's been a while since my last update and a lot's gone down. Turns out I'm not the only one suffering under Derek's management. Pretty much everyone on the team has started to feel the heat. It's gotten so bad that I've actually started to find allies. People who once kept quiet are finally speaking up. But what Derek did next, I never saw it coming. It was like he figured out exactly what I valued, and decided to weaponize it. One afternoon, completely out of the blue, he came up to me with this almost too good to be true offer. "Jake," he said, "there's this high-priority project I think is perfect for you. It matches your skills, your interests, everything. I believe you're the best person for the job." And then he outlined it. This wasn't just any project, it was something I had secretly dreamed of working on for years. A chance to combine my creativity with my professional skills. Finally, a project where I could bring my artistic side into the workplace. I was stunned. It felt like all my hard work had led to this moment. Without hesitation, I said yes. I threw myself into it, heart and soul, ready to make something truly meaningful. What I didn't realize then was that Derek hadn't given me a dream project, he'd handed me a trap. The next few months were a blur of early mornings, late nights, and way too much coffee. I poured everything I had into that project, every detail carefully thought through, every part analyzed and refined. Sarah was right there beside me, just as passionate, just as driven. We both believed in what we were building. Finally, the big day arrived, the one I'd been dreaming about for years. The presentation. I stood at the front of the room, facing a full house, colleagues, supervisors, and even some outside clients. My stomach churned with nerves, but I was excited too. I was about to share something I'd created with my own hands and mind. It wasn't just work to me, it was personal. As I opened my screen to begin the presentation, Derek suddenly stood up, gave me a fake smile, and said, "Thanks for sharing, Jake," before casually taking over the entire presentation like it was his. Just like that. He spoke with fake charm and acted like the whole thing had been his brainchild. And the worst part? He didn't mention my name. Not even once. It was as if I hadn't spent a single minute on it, like I didn't even exist in the process. Derek stood there basking in the applause, soaking in compliments for my work, and I just sat frozen in disbelief. Sarah and I exchanged looks, hers just as heartbroken as mine. We both knew what had happened. My dream had been hijacked right in front of everyone, and Derek had taken it as his own. I can't explain how deeply that betrayal cut. After everything I'd put into that project, after investing myself so completely, he just swept it out from under me. It was the most blatant, soul-crushing act of manipulation I'd ever faced. And at that moment, something shifted inside me. I realized I couldn't stand being around Derek any longer. This wasn't just a toxic colleague, I was dealing with someone who would rob others of their dreams for a little extra praise. I had two choices, either walk away from everything I'd built in this company, or finally do something about him. I know I talked in my last update about sticking it out, about proving my worth. But this? This was different. This was personal, and it was starting to take a serious toll on my mental health. For the first time, I started questioning if this job was even worth the cost. Update 4. After the disaster of that presentation, I'd pretty much made up my mind to quit. I couldn't see a path forward. But Sarah, as always, stopped me from making a rash decision. She told me leaving would only let Derek win, and we couldn't let that happen. "It's time we fight back," she said. "We need to expose him. We can't let this go on any longer." That's when we decided we weren't just going to walk away, we were going to get justice. We started small, gathering receipts, collecting proof. Emails, Slack messages, forwarded memos, voice notes, anything that showed the truth. We documented every time Derek took credit for someone else's work, every conversation where he undermined his team, every lie he spun. It became our side project, Operation Expose Derek. We were smart about it, too. Stealthy. Careful. We knew confronting him head-on wouldn't work, he'd just twist the narrative or cover his tracks. So instead, we built a case strong enough to speak for itself. And then, one evening while digging through old messages, we hit the jackpot. Remember that report Derek blamed Sarah for messing up, the one that escalated while I was out at the jam session? Well, turns out Sarah's original submission had been perfectly accurate. Derek had gone in afterward and changed a few values himself, which is what caused the whole mess. When we found that, Sarah, usually the calm one, was ready to march straight up to Derek and punch him in the face. I had to hand her a glass of water and crack a few jokes just to keep her from storming into his office. We both ended up laughing, not because it was funny, but because for the first time, it felt like things might actually turn around. We took the whole package, screenshots, logs, everything, and brought it straight to HR. The HR manager, who also happened to be a buddy of mine, was stunned. He couldn't believe what we'd uncovered. Unfortunately, his hands were tied. The most he could officially do was issue Derek a warning and make him send us an apology email. But he did give us a much better idea. "If you really want to put a dent in his little empire," he said, "take this to the director of the innovation team. He has real authority, and if you can catch Derek trying to pull something again, especially in front of leadership, it could be game over." That gave us an idea. We decided to create a brand new project, one with just enough flash to lure Derek in. We worked quietly, developing something that looked like gold on the surface, but had just enough gaps and technical flaws to unravel if the presenter didn't fully understand it. The idea was simple: bait the trap. Sure enough, Derek took it. As soon as we mentioned it to him, he lit up. Classic Derek, always hungry for the spotlight. He didn't ask too many questions, just nodded, smiled, and told us he'd take it from here. We gave him a shallow overview of the project, just enough to make it look legit. The holes were subtle, but they were there. We were nervous, I won't lie. There was always the chance he'd catch the flaws. But he didn't. And that's exactly why we call him undeserving. He never puts in the effort to truly understand anything. Finally, presentation day arrived. The entire team gathered in the conference room, including the director. Derek, of course, was eager to take center stage. He strutted up to the front like he was giving the keynote at a tech summit. With his usual fake charm, he launched into the pitch, presenting our setup like he was the brains behind it all. We could barely keep a straight face. He had no clue what was about to happen. Final update. Derek walked into that room with the same overconfidence he'd shown during the presentation of my dream project. The audience was paying close attention, nodding along as he started. Sarah and I shared a knowing glance, little smiles exchanged between us as we watched our plan unfold. But then the cracks started to show. As Derek dug deeper into the presentation, he began to stumble. His facts were off, his numbers didn't add up, and it was clear he didn't fully understand what he was talking about. The room, once attentive, began shifting in their seats, exchanging confused looks. You could feel the air change. Derek had walked right into our trap. And that's when I stepped in. I stood up, calmly interrupted, and corrected the numbers he had gotten wrong. I took control of the screen and switched to our actual presentation, the real version, the one Sarah and I had carefully built. I explained everything clearly, backed it with logic, and told the team that Derek had accidentally presented an outdated version with multiple errors we had fixed. The director looked right at me and asked, "So you're saying you and Sarah created this?" I nodded. "Yes, sir. We both worked on this project from the ground up." Then he turned to Derek and asked why neither of our names had been mentioned anywhere, no credit given, not even in passing. Derek, clearly flustered, tried to weasel out of it by saying he'd told me to include our names, but I'd somehow left them out. I didn't lose my cool. I kept my tone steady and said, "Honestly, I assumed it was just the usual Derek presenting my work. That's what happened with the last few projects too. My name was left off every time, even verbally." The room went quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. Derek's face turned several shades of red, and for the first time, he had nothing to say. That was it, our moment. Not just revenge, but justice. My stolen dream project finally reclaimed. Sarah gave me a look that said it all. We did it. The director stood up and asked Derek to come with him. They walked out of the room, and about 20 minutes later, I was called into his office too. Derek was still sitting there, looking like he wanted to melt into the chair. The director asked me to show the previous projects I claimed were mine. I opened my laptop without hesitation and went through each one, answering every question he had: technical, creative, strategic. I knew them inside and out. Derek, trying one last time to salvage what little dignity he had left, told the director I was lying, trying to ruin his reputation and steal the spotlight. But the truth had already surfaced. My work spoke for itself. After I finished, the director thanked me and told me I could return to my desk. As I walked back, I was met with smiles, high fives, and a ton of well-done nods from my team. For once, it felt like people saw me. The next day, Derek didn't show up at the office. Later, my friend in HR quietly told me that Derek had requested to work from home. Apparently, there's now a formal investigation underway. He's being looked into for manipulating other people's work, and he's not just facing our complaint, others had come forward too. Sarah officially filed her complaint about the report escalation, and that added weight to our case. Yesterday, we got the news that until a new senior manager is hired or someone is promoted, we'll be reporting directly to the director. As for Derek, he's no longer listed in the employee portal. Some say he was fired. Others think he quit out of embarrassment. Honestly, I don't really care. What matters is that the cloud of stress in office politics has finally lifted. I can focus on my work again, get back to the things I love, and maybe even pick up my guitar without feeling guilty. I don't know what the future holds for me here, but at least now, I feel like I've got a fair shot. And after everything that happened, that's more than enough.